My name is Jerry Gill. Today is February 20th, 2010. I'm visiting with Arthur Art Adams, the third. The third. And in Bob Adams' home here in Dallas, Texas. This interview is for the Old State Stories Project, which is part of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. And Art, appreciate you taking time to come by and visit with us. And
thank you, Jerry.
I said earlier, we appreciate the coconut cream pie too. pretty good.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah. Now, kind of setting the stage again, as we had in previous interviews, but you're descendant namesake of Arthur Wesley Adams.
Right.
Who was in the first graduate class.
The first graduate. And as I understand, valedictorian.
Magruder Medal winner.
Medal winner, right.
And but along with his brother James Homer was a member of that first graduating class in 1896, then Oklahoma A&M, now Oklahoma State University.
Right.
So the Adams family is also important to the founding and history of really the state of Oklahoma, in that your grandfather, his father, William H.H., actually made the run in 1889, along with your great-grandfather and your father made the run. Is that right?
That's correct.
In 1889, which is pretty interesting, both 89ers, and William H.H. Adams also laid out the plat for the original city of Stillwater. So a lot of Stillwater, Oklahoma State University, Oklahoma ties there. But I thought we might back up first of all and ask Art a little bit about your life, about where you grew up, a little bit about your family, some of your early memories.
Well, my dad was Arthur Wesley Adams Jr., and of course I'm the third. I was born in 1939, the year my grandfather died, Arthur, the original Arthur, the Oklahoma A&M Arthur. And my dad graduated also from Oklahoma A&M.
What year did he graduate?
It would be around 1929. Yes. In the 20s, I can remember my dad talking about the Roaring 20s, and he was in college. And did he refer to Oklahoma A&M as the Princeton of the Southwest? Was that
Princeton of the Plains?
Princeton of the Plains, yeah. And so he had memories of going to Oklahoma A&M during the 20s. And I guess a lot of people were having some bad times during that time. And I guess he just worked a little bit. I think he worked in a cafeteria. This is my dad. During those times, and got through somehow or other. So listen, if y'all got some corrections, please jump in here. So my dad went into business with my grandfather in the oil business, and my first recollection is in Fort Stockton, Texas, a small town out in the middle of the oil patch. And they were in business together in the oil business, and I was, my only picture I remember of me and my grandfather was must have been about 6 months old, and he was holding me, and he had a coat and tie, and but he died probably when I was 6 to 9 months old, and so I grew up out in West Texas. We moved to Midland, Texas, which is also in the middle of the Permian Basin. One of the largest oil fields in the world at that time. And that's where I went to high school. And I was a baseball player, and I wanted to be a major leaguer. And so when I got out of high school, when you lived in Texas, you went to the University of Texas. So I am a black sheep. Went to the University of Texas, and there were just a couple of us, my cousin Art Roberts. And so we didn't hear much, I know we're going to get into this, Jerry, but we didn't hear much about Oklahoma A&M at that time. My dad talked to me about being in a fraternity. He was a Beta Theta Pi. I talked about Hank Iba, the basketball teams. And he mentioned that they had some great baseball teams, but didn't push me to go to Oklahoma A&M. So I ended up at the University of Texas and didn't know much about the heritage.
Let me share a little bit of Texas. You played for the Longhorns, the baseball team. Y'all got in the College World Series a couple times?
Yes, where Oklahoma State probably beat us. Yeah.
No, they didn't. So you played
57
to 61?
61, Yeah, I graduated Midland High School in 57.
All-state baseball player?
Allstate, I don't think so.
Well,
we didn't have Allstate at that
okay.
time in baseball. Yeah.
You were the starting shortstop?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Got a lot of balls hit your way.
Yeah, and I made a lot of errors. Yeah.
Well, let me back up and ask you, look, because I want to talk about your career and life after. Back up your questions about your dad. Did your father, did he share? You talking about some of his experiences, but going back to your grandfather, to his father, did he say very much about? Did he have very many memories he shared with you about his father and his experience at Oklahoma State?
Not about his father's experience at Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
No, except that he was the first graduate.
Mm-hmm. And so you knew that as a kid growing up?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't really dawn on me as being important
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had my life and I was doing all my stuff, and it just wasn't a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand it at the time, what heritage we had. So, he talked about his dad after college, because they were in business together. And, the things he would say about Arthur. My dad was called Wesley.
Okay.
And so he would talk about his dad being the kindest, most gentle person, very intelligent, would take people off the street and feed them, take care of them. So that's what I thought of my grandfather, a great guy, just willing to help people.
You talked about being a real entrepreneurial business person and
well, that just because he was successful, had been successful, so I just assumed that. But I really didn't, at the age I was, I just wasn't into it.
And you come up in our previous interview, the conversation about your grandfather again. He really did very, very well in real estate and in banking and then in the gas and oil energy. Then later, and probably lost most of that in
the 20s.
2029 crash.
Yeah.
And so he had to sort of rebuild his life and his profession. That when he moved out of Fort Stockton and evidently become pretty successful. Then again out there.
As I understand it, they were very successful. Yeah. So, but I don't know a lot about it, Jerry.
Did stories about your grandmother? You remember? Did you know her?
I knew Olive, Arthur's wife. Not as well as my cousin Arthur, but she would come live with us a few months each year. She was a very strong Methodist lady. Never saw her with her hair down, except sometimes if you'd sneak in at night, she was letting her hair down. But she never played cards. Probably never said a cuss word except once to Art Roberts.
And he probably deserved it, right?
Yeah, and he deserved it very muchly. So, very just a straight-laced Methodist lady, high morals and ethics, and I probably gained that much. That was the things that I really learned from Aunt Olive, Nanny as we called her, was her ethics and morals. Probably that was, and I think that went to Arthur too. I think that spoke to Arthur because everybody he ever talked to about my grandfather said the same thing.
Did your grandmother Olive? Did she ever talk about Arthur's OSU experience, or was that part of your?
Jerry, she probably did, and I don't remember it because it just wasn't important to me at the time, the age I was. But I'm sure she did, but I can't remember anything.
So your grandfather and his brother James Homer actually were in business together in Ardmore for a while.
I think they were in the newspaper business, and I think they had 3 or 4 businesses together, if I remember right.
I think James Homer maybe was superintendent of schools there in Ardmore or something like that.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Did your grandfather? It seemed like I'm trying to recall. Was he ever in the banking business in Hugo for a while?
I don't know.
Did he go from Ardmore to Hugo before he went forward?
I don't know. I haven't read my update lately.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there any? When did you first kind of start learning about the background of your grandfather in Oklahoma State?
Probably after college. We just didn't pay much attention to it as my cousin alluded to, it just wasn't talked about. We were Texans, and until our other cousin Bob Adams and Pat got everybody together, it just wasn't an issue, and so we didn't understand it. It wasn't important, and so a lot of the things that were probably told to me, I just forgot. So it has been such a great thing that Bob and his family have put all this together, and now we've learned a lot more about our heritage in Oklahoma State, Oklahoma A&M.
Is that when you first started learning about William Henry Harrison, your
exactly.
grandfather?
I had no idea who William Henry Harrison was until we started doing all these family reunions. Certainly.
Well, let's go back and pick up kind of your career a little bit, Art. When you left the University of Texas, can you share a little about your career?
Yeah, it's real easy, Jerry. I went to work for Exxon right out of college, and spent a couple of years with Exxon, and then another guy and I. Well, then I went to work in the chemical industry. My degree was in the engineering route to business at Texas, so I had some engineering background, but I got in the chemical industry with the Exxon. And then after about, I was out of school about 5 years, another guy and I formed a chemical company. And that lasted for 25 or 30 years. And thank goodness we were successful. And then we sold it to a German company, and then I retired when I was, 52, or actually 50. Kind of retired to the hill country, and then I picked up, that was about 1987, 88, and I picked up into the real estate business at that time, started doing some real estate stuff, so that's about it. But we had a very successful chemical company, and that was fun. Had a good time.
What was the name of the company, Art?
Well, it's gone through several names now, but it was at that time it was Delta Solvents and Chemicals Company. Yeah. So we had about 11 branches, and actually we had a branch in Oklahoma City. So we did have some Oklahoma ties there.
That's good.
Yeah.
So do you still do a little bit of real estate business on the side?
Yeah, I am. Still involved in real estate where I live. I live in the hill country of Texas.
Whereabouts there?
Close to Austin, on Lake Travis.
Lake Travis, beautiful country.
It sure is, wonderful. Yeah.
What? Tell me a little bit about your father. We were talking a little bit about him. What do you remember about him?
Well, my dad was what we call a bean counter. He was a CPA, and we moved to. I started kind of understanding what was going on when I was, at elementary, junior high. We moved to Midland, and he went to work for a company in Midland as an accountant, and I just grew up in Midland, and did my thing, and every now and then I'd hear a little bit about Oklahoma A&M, but not a lot.
So you kind of heard talking about some of his experiences. He was there in the
20s. So I guess it was before Arthur had lost all his money in 29. So I guess things were really rolling and rocking in the 20s, and Dad told some pretty good stories about some of his Beta Theta Pi parties.
Probably know about the betas is probably true.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So he had a good time, and he graduated out of the business school, and then but he never pushed me to go to Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma. I don't know, when did Oklahoma State become
1957.
57. That's when I graduated from high school. So it was always Oklahoma A&M to me. 57.
Well, again, you're kind of sharing some of his stories. What stood out in your mind? Some of his favorite memories about Oklahoma State?
Like I say, he loved Hank Iba. He loved the basketball program. He never did play sports in college, but he played a little bit in high school, I think. He liked baseball a lot. Mainly, he really talked more about his his fraternity experiences, and that was mostly it.
Can you tell a little bit about your mother and her influence in your life?
Well, my mother grew up in Tacoma, Washington. Was born in Tacoma, Washington. She and Dad were married when my dad was in business with his dad, Arthur, in Fort Stockton. And So she was a housewife and this sort of thing, and of course she didn't know anything about Oklahoma A&M. So she just I was kind of raised as a Texas boy.
Well, kind of going back to your parents, what were the certain values or traits that you learned in your family growing up that influenced you later in life?
Well, like I said, I think more than anything, the strong ethics and moral of my grandmother, Nanny, made such an impression on me. And I think it related to Arthur, our grandfather. I think they were both alike in the stories you hear. And so the strong Methodist background, and I think that influenced me as far as my morals and ethics more than anything. So I was always, taught, hey, this is the way what you ought to do. It's the way it ought to be. And but I think Nanny was the one that I remember more. I mean, I can remember when we go visit her in the mountains on Sunday morning, we're walking around the cabin carrying a cross singing Onward Christian Soldiers. I can remember that. And so, that obviously made an impression on me. Yeah. So.
Talk a little bit about the relationship your dad with his father, your grandfather. It must have been pretty good because they went into business together.
I would assume they got along famously. And when my grandfather died, I think it really was a big shock in my dad's life. And so I think it affected him a whole lot. They must have been very close, the way I can tell.
Did they ever talk about when he went off to school, was that part of his plan to come back and work with his dad, do you know?
I don't think it was a plan, no. No, I don't think so. I think it just worked out, Jerry. I think this big plan was to go to work with Homer more than anything.
Well, the kind of reunion thing we were talking about a minute ago, when you first started thinking about the larger extended Adams family. So that first that was in that 1991 reunion that you had in Angel Fire. Was that when you first got acquainted with the rest of the family, started thinking about the larger Adams family?
Yeah, that's basically the year that we all kind of got together. Bob had I'd known Bob over the years occasionally, that we'd see Bob and Pat, and we'd touch on it a little bit, but this was the first time we, I guess, met any of Walter's people, and yeah. So it was. We just didn't understand the heritage until, bless Bob and Pat's heart, till we got together with these reunions. So that's right.
That's when you first started finding out about the run of '89 and William Henry Harrison and some of the.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What was it a shock to get that group together? I mean, what did you think about that Adams clan?
I was impressed with the educational background of everyone. And of course, most of them were Oklahoma A&M graduates, by the way, but had gone on and been very successful in different areas of life. And I think that's what impressed me more than anything. It was obviously a very educated group and caring group, very caring group. Everybody seemed to really care about each other, so that's probably what impressed me more than anything.
We talk about roots. Of course, we had this series back several years ago, but was it amazing to you as they started unfolding Dwayne Sion work he did as they went back to the 1100s in England? I mean, but look at how far back the family lineage went. You looked at Elijah, who was in the Civil War and fought at the Battle of Chickamauga. You go back and look at the two, part of the Adams family is actually the two presidents, John Adams and John Quincy Adams.
Well, that's what I hear, Jared.
It's true.
Okay.
But is that pretty special for you to think about having that?
Well, yeah, I tell everybody that I'm a descendant of John and John Quincy, yeah. If that's what you mean.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, it's we consider it special if it's for real.
Where are you sort of anticipating? Are you going because you're thinking we're going to find some horse thieves in the family?
Oh well, I'm sure there's plenty of those. We just don't advertise them.
That's right. But you're thinking of going to the person, you know, I wonder who these crazy people are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
So you've established some relationships and friendships now through that? And
Oh, gosh, yes, yeah. But, you know, because my cousin Arthur and I, we were scared to kind of go because we're black sheep, you know, for University of Texas. We didn't know what we were going to find, but they welcomed us greatly, and it's been a great experience every reunion, so. And we got to, and one reunion, we got to stay at the Adams Nut Farm.
Adams Nut Farm,
That's
right.
in Stillwater.
Maybe just another way of asking the question again, but you think of the heritage, we all want to kind of think about where we're from, and for instance, you're proud of the heritage that you got.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think that the other thing I keep harping on, and I think it's true, I see in the Adams family a lot of strong Christian background, and I think there's strong ethics involved in our family and morals, and we're proud of that. Yeah.
What have we not covered, Art? I mean,
I don't know. We want to talk baseball, Jerry?
Yeah. How many times Texas beats up on OAMC? Well, just sort of the final question kind of I've got is a little bit about the relationship with the university. Do you feel good about the relationship that the university has forged with your family, the Adams family?
I think you guys have gone out of your way to make us feel welcome. And every time we've been there for some ceremony, whether it was the presentation of the original diploma or the, what do we call it, the
Adams Market.
The Adams Market, you know, you guys have gone out of your way to make us feel welcome, to make us feel important. And so I wish the University of Texas would be that good, because you guys really are, you know, have made us feel great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.